Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for this, the thrilling second instalment of UWSU Elections Live Question Time. My name is Dr. Alex Harden, and I'm joining you from the University of Surrey Students' Union, where I am the Digital Experience Manager, as well as the very proud former SAB for 2 years. So I'm really excited to have the chance to join you today and hear from your candidates for the position of VP Postgraduate Education. Uh, I hope that everyone was able to join us yesterday when we heard from candidates for VP Activities and VP Welfare, but fret not if you weren't. You can find out all about the elections by going to uwsu.com/elections. On there, you can find everything about the process, as well as anything to catch up on about the week so far. Today, we're going to be moving on to candidates for the positions of VP Postgraduate Education and later on in the evening, VP Undergraduate Education. We're going to be hearing from a range of candidates who, of course, have put themselves forward to represent the full breadth of the postgraduate community at the university, working hand in hand with key staff to create the changes that you want to see, and representing both taught postgraduates, so master's students, and research postgraduates, i.e. doctoral students. We're going to invite each candidate to join me for around 10 minutes or so, one after another, where they will be all answering the same first question which they've been given to prepare in advance. That will be about a minute or so, and then they'll have 30 seconds for each follow-up question, which we've compiled over the last week based on your feedback. Before we start, I would just like to say that all of the candidates tonight have put themselves forward amongst a very challenging year, of course. So please do join me in wishing them all the best. We only want to see everyone achieve their full potential tonight. And for those of you at home, please do send in your own questions and comments on either Facebook or YouTube. We will be monitoring both and trying to slot in as many as we have time for tonight. That's everything that I have to say to start. So please join me in welcoming our first candidate, Adelaine Garesh. Do we have Adelaine, please?
Yes, hello.
Adelaide, hi. Thank you for joining me. So as I explained in the introduction, everyone's got the same first question. So could you please introduce yourselves to our viewers and tell everyone what your number one priority for your year ahead would be?
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Adlan Garici, and studying Masters of Business Management in the University of Westminster, and this is my last year, unfortunately. And yeah, my first priority is to enhance the relationship between the academic staff and the students by giving them the guidance and the support required to, to improve their experience day by day. Thank you.
Lovely, short and sweet. So, Adeline, at the start, I talked about how the successful candidate for VP Postgraduate Education will be supporting the full postgrad community. So I'd like to just hear from you. What are you planning to do to support PhD students if you're successful?
Well, for the moment, we're going to focus on the two departments, which are undergraduate and postgraduate, which requires, they improving and they going on for their courses. But for PhD students, we try to give them, the guidance and the availability of all the data that they have to collect for their research, and to do their testimonial as perfect as they can.
And if I could just push on that a little bit further, are there any particular issues that you feel are really affecting PhD students at the university?
Yeah, at the moment, it's not really. We can just call that issues, but maybe obstacles that face, and maybe especially at the moment where we're studying virtually and the pandemic, maybe not just academic support, but also well-being support, and the needs of talk, and the needs of experimenting themselves in terms of how they feel, because the pressure of PhD studies is not just like undergraduate or postgraduate. So if we can offer that support, especially well-being. We just talk about academic support, which is having the data and the libraries and the availability of how we said of materials that we can offer to them. But in terms of well-being, I think they need a more support and more how to talk and how to release that pressure, that negative
Okay,
pressure on them.
great. Thank you, Adelaine. Next up, then, let's talk about your manifesto. On the manifesto, you've spoken about proposing new commitments. What are these commitments?
Yeah, commitments from the academic staff and from the students. First of all, we can to start about the academic staff, that they need to be not more serious, but more comprehensive to students and to what the students are facing at the moment and in the future. And from students, I think that students must. Sorry.
Sorry, 10 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Test,
Sorry,
test.
please do.
Yeah, yeah. So from students, I think they need to be more interactive with the academic staff and to collect the best feedback to know what the kind of procedures that I'm going to do.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And in the manifesto, you also talk about the postgrad community and building a stronger postgraduate community. How do you intend to achieve that?
Yes, by coordinating the departments of Westminster University from Marylebone to Harrows and to other departments, and try to collect the maximum feedback that we can, and to do maximum polls and statics, because if we know the exactly data and we know exactly statics, we will find out the requirement and the needs that students are really needs of, and we can offer that by diplomacy and by discussing this with the academic staff.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. So thinking a bit more broadly about the Students' Union then, postgraduates tend to feel that a lot of events and activities are very targeted and focused towards undergraduate students. So what do you plan to do about this? How are you going to improve postgraduate engagement with events?
Well, we will see the trends in the future, and we try to to read the waves that will goes in the future. For example, this year there has Black Lives Matter, and with the pandemic, and there has many events. So we try to get the wave with the trends and to offer them many events, and to let them know also about these events so they can contribute and they can enjoy it.
Perfect. Thank you, Adelaine. So at this point, we're going to move on to a couple of audience questions. Thank you so much for sending them in. Adelaine, I was wondering, oh, sorry, technical difficulties there. How do you plan to provide more employability opportunities for postgraduate students in this very challenging time that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, of course. We know that the university are offering, many materials to enhance the relationship between our graduate and our students, and the local or the international enterprises to have an internship and what else. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all we collect some data, and then we can base it on what we have. We can know exactly what the student exactly wait about from us, for the internship, because that's why. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. And then the last question that I have in front of me, Adelaine, you spoke about using diplomacy when speaking between students and the university. But how are you going to ensure that the student voice is always heard by the university?
Yeah, of course, but we believe that there is a law and there is policies that we have to respect and we have to implement in our day-to-day work. So we try to be more wise, and we try to get the voice of students to senior management or to academic staff as efficient as we can, but in line with the law.
Okay, lovely. In that case, Adelaine, that's all of the questions that I have for you and that the audience have sent in. But before we finish, is there anything else that you'd like to add, maybe in the form of a closing statement?
Yeah, I think the interactivity of students and the feedback are very important to know what procedures and what we are waiting from us. The requirement, so we can talk about it. Thank you.
Adelaine, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really great to have the opportunity to hear a bit more about your manifesto, so thank you.
Thank you.
Right, next up, we're going to move on to our next candidate for the position of VP Postgraduate Education. So please join me in welcoming Peter Quadru Aduse.
Hello.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Please, I'm fine.
Right.
How about you?
You know what?
That's
I'm just
nice.
happy to be here. I'm testing out my velvet zebra print jacket for the first time in 2 years, living my best life. VP Postgraduate Education, as we've said, everyone's got the same first question. So over the next minute or so, can I just invite you to introduce yourself and what your number one priority for the year ahead would be?
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm Peter Eduse. I'm 30 years from Ghana, and I'm currently living around Malibon, and I'm studying international relations. And I'm studying international relations, MA. And so, if I should jump straight into what I seek to achieve when I'm able to ascend the higher office, then it's simple. First off, everything I want to do is based on my experience as a student at Westminster. I believe to a very large extent that Westminster is an institution that has so many opportunities. But currently, there seems to be, I don't know whether during our times as a result of COVID, there seems to be kind of some apathy, between students and what the opportunities that the university seeks to offer. So mostly it's sometimes those who are very detailed oriented, people who follow information is the people who get the information, But I think to a very to all intent and purposes,
About 10
there
seconds,
are
Peter.
other ways with which, yeah, sure. There are other ways. There are other ways that students can get information and make them or build them. So when I when I should be elected, I will seek to co-opt course reps from various, you know, departments, and then because they have an active WhatsApp group, any information that comes and it is very pertinent to the student, it will be also passed through the course reps that they will put on the WhatsApp so that the students get information. So if it has to do with employability skills that they need to offer, like there's
Peter, if it's
information that
okay with you,
people.
I think we're going to have to just cut you off there. But thank you so much. That was a very sort of wide-ranging introduction, and we'll pick up on some of those issues in a few moments' time. The first sort of question that I had for you, Proper, was you've mentioned that you're a good leader in your manifesto. And I'm interested in what you think are the common issues facing postgraduate students at the university. You've got about 30 seconds, if that's okay.
Okay, so for postgraduate students, I think there are two things that I was talking about. One is that most of them, for instance, me, I was working before I joined. So when I come, the difference between postgraduate student and an undergraduate student is quite different, right? For postgraduate student, he's concerned about how he or she will graduate. And mostly, a lot of people have issues with dissertation, how they can produce very good, papers to complete. And so this is one of the major challenges. And my focus will be that, if you look at the dissertation classes, you have maybe 3 seminars and then you are left on your own with your
10
supervisor.
seconds.
Exactly. So I will seek to organize monthly, sections um, at the various departments, and then we will engage in practical steps. So if it has to do with introduction, we will have patrons at the various departments, and then we will take students through how to do their introduction at every stage. When it gets to research methods, we run sections for them so that by the close of uh, by the close of their time, they would have been able to produce very quality dissertation and graduate successfully. So,
Okay.
thank
And
you.
Peter, if I can put you on the spot here, in a yes or no answer, do you think that postgraduate students are currently getting value for money at the university?
No. So even in my even in my manifesto, I was like, I think there should be a freeze. Or no, there should be a freeze on the fees. So for international students, they should freeze it, and then for research students who moved on to a second year and all, they should make sure they decrease or they decrease the amount that they are paying, because currently the efficacy of being studying online can't compare to real physical classroom experience. And at the end of
Peter,
the
if I could
day,
push you on this point a little bit more, you know, universities throughout the UK are facing big financial challenges as a result of the pandemic.
exactly.
They're still paying the same costs to maintain their campuses for staff. They're losing money on accommodation and so on. So, what are you going to say to a member of senior university staff who says, "Well, sorry, we don't have the money to cut tuition fees"?
It has to do with innovativeness, right? Innovation is the key to, because we are in trying times, so we just have to live with it. Uh, I think that the university has very, like, they should one way or the other find ways and means, because we have an uh, an alumni body that I think a lot of people are well to do. And in these trying times, still, COVID or no COVID, some businesses are thriving. And whether we like it or not, there are people who understand the situation, and there are people who understand the educational structure. So for a university at this particular time to reach out to those organizations for funding to, as a way, cut some of the cost that as a result of COVID they are not able to meet. I think to a very large extent that can be one of the ways with which we can raise money to also shoulder some of the burden the students are going through. So it's
Okay.
pretty simple. It's about fundraising and how innovative with which you can raise the funds. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. In which case, let's move on to an audience questions. And someone's written here that part-time postgraduate students are often neglected because they're only on campus twice a week. So how are you going to engage part-time postgraduate students?
Uh, any policy that I would lead wouldn't be discriminatory. They will also have their fair share. If it has to do with, if I'm interested in upgrading how people work on their dissertation, times will also be set for them. If I'm interested in how they are also socialized into the system, they'll also be involved. So to break the gap between part-time and full-time students, for instance, let's take this COVID season. Um, in terms of, let's cite an example as in socialization. If during my time I want to set up tickets for people to watch movie, to ease out maybe an online movie or something, it will be extended to all part-time students, include the full-time and the part-time students. So it will be first come first serve basis. So that we get a
Okay.
blend.
And then in that case, Peter, let's move on to, I think, my last question for you, again
That's fine.
submitted by our audience. You mentioned about support for postgraduate students with dissertations. Now that's not on offer for, that's not on offer for undergrads. So do you think that postgraduate students need more support when it comes to dissertations and so on?
Yeah, from my experience, this is my second. I have a first master's already. This is the second one, and then the problem is that most of the students mostly have to outsource their dissertation. So what's the point of coming to school and then you are supposed to gain an experience, build a skill, but because you can't do the thing, or sometimes you think you don't have you don't have enough experience to, and then it has to do with 6 credit hours and all those things. So the point is that they need it. And then organizing sections for students will help them build their skills, because sometimes you get to a higher, you take up higher responsibilities and you are supposed to write sophisticated reports and all those things. So these dissertations are to guide us, So
Okay. Peter, I think that's probably all that we have time for, I'm afraid. But before we do finish, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the voters at home about why they should vote for you as VP Postgraduate Education?
What I would say is that I'm there for them. I'm here to serve them. I would serve them very well. Believe in me, because I don't play with my work. And at the end of the day, they will really see positive changes and their voice will really be heard, because I'm also a very good negotiator. Thank you.
Okay, Peter, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great to hear all about your manifesto. Up next, we're going to move on to our third candidate, who is Altahir Ali. Hi, Altahir. I think you're on mute at the moment. Can you hear me all right?
Hello, Alex.
Hi, thank you for joining me. Just so you know, your camera's not on. I'm not sure if that's a technical issue, but I just wanted you to be aware. So all of the candidates have been given the same starting question, and I'm wondering if you could please introduce yourself for us and tell everyone what your #1 priority would be for the year ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry that my camera is off today for some technical issues at my end, and I'm really deeply apologize. I wish you could have seen my face as I see you, Mr. Alex, and other students. So I'm as a VP postgraduate education. I will ensure that academic issues that matters most to postgraduate students are listened to. So I am, as a student, really gives me this position that I could be very close to students, listen to their problems, and communicate them with the concerned parties. So I will not focus only on the postgraduate education, but also the undergraduate education, because I believe undergraduate education also, they have their own problems, so they also need to be listened to as well.
Okay, thank you. And in which case, that leads really lovely into my first question, which is all about the attainment gap. So this is the gap between the proportion of students from different sections of our student community who achieve a 2-1 or a first at the end of their degree, whether that's an undergraduate student or a master's student. So structural inequality is an issue, we know that, but what's your plan to tackle the attainment gap?
I believe every human has his rights to practice what he's believe in. As a VP, I need to make the environment that it is healthy for everybody to practice his absolute right without violating the other's right.
And if I could push you a little bit further then on that point, Altahir, are there any particular issues which you think affect particular sections of the student community at Westminster, and how would you seek to address them?
From my own experience, one major issue I think that most students are experiencing is how to integrate what they are learning with what they are going to do after their graduations. So integrating, for example, finding job opportunities, real life experience, contacting, for example, employees, giving them training opportunities, letting them go outdoor and see what they have studied in a real life practice. This one major thing I think the students need to be entitled. Integrated with. So if I nominated as a VP, this is one issue that I will work on very vigorously.
Okay, great, thank you. And next question then. In terms of feedback and communication with course leaders, what do you think are the biggest challenges for students in relation to communication and feedback?
I think it's the concepts that the students try to communicate because I believe also course leaders have other concerns and have other issues that relevant to them. There are many students who also are contacting this course leader. So first thing is, I think students themselves need to really understand what's the purpose and what's the aims of these course leaders and what's required from them, letting them understand the way and how to prepare the questions and the concerns. I think it gives them a big opportunity for the answers to be answered properly and appropriately in a good time and in a good manner as well.
Okay, thank you. And we were talking before about the idea of a postgraduate community and of course, the different challenges faced by taught postgraduates from research postgraduates. So if you're successful, how would you bring together the postgraduate community at Westminster?
As I mentioned earlier, that one major issue is how to engage students into real life experiments. This one thing I think it is having a big added value to students overall student experience. And I will work hardly to liaise and organize all with all appropriate and external organizations to make sure that all theoretical and practical issues are tied together, so that to give the biggest benefits to the students at Westminster. I mean, postgraduate students at Westminster, but also other students, including the undergraduate as well.
Okay, thank you. And knowing that Westminster is a very diverse university, have you got any plans specifically to support BME students?
I myself coming from less developed country, from Africa, Sudan, and where we have multiple culture, more than 120 different ethnic groups and so on. So I believe in ethnicity and I believe in diversity. So it's enriching the overall experience. So this one of the things I feel like I could contribute to the overall experience students in my role in the office.
Okay, now we've got a couple of audience questions that have been sent in. So first off, considering that postgrad students are only in a few times each week normally, how do you plan to communicate with them better about what the Students' Union is doing?
Well, oftenly I can use the media, but also I could post my email so that everybody can reach me if they have any concerns, including WhatsApp, for example, creating a WhatsApp group for consolidating student major issues. Also, could make seminars, for example, online, virtual seminars that students could meet every, for example, day in a week, so that they can discuss issues that concern them most.
Okay, and I think the second question that we've got here from the audience is going back to what you were saying about these intersections between undergrads and postgrads and wanting to support the broader community at Westminster. So what advice would you give to an undergrad aspiring to do a postgraduate degree if they were to come to you? What advice would you give them?
It's like an academic life where learning and teaching as well is playing a big role in it. Students need to be very aware of academic activities they do, coursework including, assignments including, also practical issues that they are required to do, laboratory experience, for example. These are things that building overall academic students. So students also not only need to focus on what's given in the class or in the literature or the references. Students to broaden their horizons. For example, trying something different and trying to find way to linking this with the modules or the courses they are having. I think joining all this together is what in making undergraduate students well mature, well experienced, and also academically fit to progress into the postgraduate level.
Okay. And in that case, Altair, I think we're just about out of time. So the last thing from me is just to ask, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the voters at home about why they should vote you for VP postgraduate education?
I believe in the value of practical issues that should be integrated into the students' overall experience. This including employability, integrating theoretical part with the practical part, so that the students can gain from the maximum from what they have learned. I believe certainly we are having a very hard time with COVID-19. This might be even very challenging times for us as students to do things. But if elected, I will do my best, including other students and other trustees, to make the best possible experience for the students.
Okay. And that's a lovely note to end it on. So Altair, thank you once again for joining me. If at home you tuned in partway through that debate, unfortunately Altair's webcam wasn't working, and I'm sure there will be other tech difficulties throughout the question time events. So please do, as I said at the start, bear with our candidates as they try and negotiate the challenges of remote elections. Up next, though, I'm really delighted to introduce Emma Callahan. Do we have Emma with us? Yes. Hi, Emma. Thank you for joining me. Sorry, go ahead. Right. Well, you will have seen all of the other debates. We've started the same way each time, and that is, Emma, by asking if you could please just introduce yourself for my benefit and everyone tuning in from home, and also explain what your priority would be in the year ahead.
Yeah, I just firstly wanted to say I love your blazer. That's what I was going to say when I came on.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Emma Callahan. I'm originally from Michigan in the States. I moved to London in 2020 January to complete my MA in Human Resource Management, which I just actually finished in January. I was my cohort representative, and it kind of opened up my horizons to what I could do at the university, which is why I am running for VP of Postgraduate Education. I would say my top priority is really bridging the disconnect that occurred between postgraduates and their academics due to the pandemic. I definitely felt it as a postgrad, kind of going remotely online and feeling a bit disconnected from my classmates, my lecturers, everything that I thought I would get from my postgrad experience. So this is kind of where it ties into my ideas of my manifesto. I want to increase virtual career fairs and just kind of just get that disconnect bridged so it can target postgrads and kind of help that issue.
Okay, thank you, Emma. And you mentioned there that you were a course rep during the last sort of year or so. And in your role as a course rep, you've mentioned about this sort of disconnection, but are there any other academic issues that you faced that you would want to focus on as VP for postgraduate education?
Yeah, I definitely felt, which I will tie into my manifesto, I felt that there wasn't really clear guidance on any of my assessments through my course, kind of going into the online schooling, which is something I definitely want to fix. Additionally, I personally had mental health issues in my semester, and I found there kind of was a lack of response, or I know we have mental health services, but I didn't truly feel connected or that I had the support or the backing I needed, which is something I want to fix as well. And I definitely felt just kind of the main thing about academics is connecting, and I felt very disconnected from any of my peers during that time when I was online.
Okay, thank you, Emma. And you've also mentioned on the manifesto about sort of the postgraduate community and trying to bring people together. How would you set about building a stronger postgrad community at Westminster?
Yeah, I definitely think it starts additionally with our course reps. I think it starts with activities that we can have to bring different groups. I felt that I didn't really get to connect with anybody outside of my coursework, which was HR. I would have loved to have the opportunity to have met other postgraduates that were in different courses, similar courses, so I could communicate with them and kind of create my own network. I think that's really important when you're navigating a new time in your life, such as postgraduate education. So I would really kind of want to make those groups together and kind of reach out to different societies and see if we can bridge that gap and make sure that we can all be inclusive and accommodating.
Okay, lovely. And talking about inclusion, in the last discussion, we were talking about the attainment gap and issues faced specifically by BME students. Are there any issues faced by BME postgrads that you would like to specifically focus on if elected?
Yes, I would definitely want to kind of discuss with them. My main big thing I found through research is focus groups. So if elected, I would definitely want to reach out to those students of the BME sector and kind of ask them what issues they're struggling with, what they're facing, what is a challenge from their demographic point of view. And then from that information, I can take that and make concrete changes. And I don't just want to do it in the post-grad sector. I know if elected, I'd be working closely with the undergrad representative. And so I would definitely want to kind of work with them as well to help that issue.
Okay, and if I could push you a little bit further on this then, Emma, you've got a year in office. Let's say you want to do focus groups and there will be less engagement over the summer. You will be being trained up and learning the team, etc., which only gives you a few months really to do the focus groups, understand the findings and execute it. How are you going to achieve all of that and make a change for students at Westminster in the course of a single year?
Yeah, I definitely can say from completing my postgrad, I am very determined. I had to do a research and a dissertation through that project. I had to do focus group research within a short period of time. I really want to hit the ground running. If I have this position, I want to kind of dig deep, get in there, find out what data is missing, and then kind of change from that. So my personality and knowing my work ethic, I know that I would be able to get it completed and make concrete changes within the university.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then, I was hoping to talk about the tuition fee campaign. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the tuition fees campaign, and particularly with reference to postgraduate students?
Yeah, I think that we definitely from the pandemic did have a kind of issue with the academics that I felt was lacking. I did kind of feel like the tuition fees were very steep for what I was receiving from my education, even though I enjoyed my time at University of Westminster and I loved all of the people I met. I really want to push for a more accommodating and kind of with this pandemic, we really need to assess what students are actually paying for, what their money is going towards, how we can accommodate them to get those networking connections and the career that they need when they leave the university, which should be the main goal in purpose. So I think that kind of opening up that conversation is a really important thing to discuss.
Okay, thank you, Emma. So we've got in front of me a couple of audience submitted questions. The first one is international postgrads are usually for apologies, I'm reading it for the first time, so it's all fresh.
It's okay.
International postgrads are normally quite new to the UK, and it can, of course, be very challenging to settle and transition into an education system which won't be familiar for people joining us from overseas. So how would you support postgrad students coming to Westminster from overseas in terms of navigating their first few months at the university?
Yeah, fortunately, I actually am an international student. I came from the States. It was definitely a challenging first few months navigating student housing, navigating the different academic system. I had done a bachelor's at a US university, and it was a complete 180. I think really what I was saying about meeting with your peers, getting those connections, and then also building these support groups that students have so that they can reach out and say, hey, I'm not familiar with this. This is kind of a UK thing. Can you assist me along this way, or maybe give me some pointers? I think would really help international students in kind of settling in and not having that culture shock, because we all experience it coming to a new place and kind of having a new experience. So
Lovely. Thank you, Emma. And in that case, I think that's everything that I've got in front of me. Before we go, is there anything that you'd like to say for the voters at home about why they should vote for you?
yeah, I just wanted to say that my experience so far running as this candidate has kind of opened my horizons, and I've met so many amazing people that I never would have met had I not gone out of my comfort zone. As I mentioned, I struggled really hard with anxiety this past year, and this was kind of completely out of my depth, and I wanted to go for it. So just know that I really care about this position. I want to do the best of my ability. I'm really dedicated, and I think I can make positive, impactful changes at the university if elected. And I think it would be an honor if people voted for me. So thank you so much for having me on tonight and letting me kind of plead my case.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great to hear from you. So for those of you at home, we heard there about the joys of campaigning, and I can tell you from personal experience just how much I got from running at my student union elections. And of course, it's never too early really to start thinking about it. So if you're an aspiring SU officer, maybe you're a current course rep or student representative of any description, then maybe it's a good time to start thinking about it. All you need to do is go along to uwsu.com/elections, where you can find out all about the current process this year, and maybe start thinking for yourself ahead. Now, we're running a little bit ahead of time, actually, I've just noticed, but I'm hoping that my next candidate is ready to join me. Up next, we've got Alize Abrar. Do we have Alize? Hi.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us, Alize. We'll start as we have with all of the others with an introduction, if we could, and talking about what you would like to focus on as your #1 priority in the year ahead.
So, hello everyone, my name is Alize and I am in my final year of law. I'm running to be your next Vice President of Postgraduate because I believe that representation should be equal for everyone, and the SU needs to be inclusive of every single one, regardless of their educational level. So my #1 priority would be to have an exclusive counseling service for postgraduate students. That's despite having existing counseling service for all students, it's quite difficult for postgraduates because there is a social stigma around this as well, that older students can handle their work pressure much better than younger students can, which is wrong, because everyone's mental health should be prioritized regardless of their age or any factor like that. So I will push for postgraduates to receive better mental health support, because heavy workload and fewer contact hours can make students feel as if they're left on their own. And they have to basically deal with their mental health by themselves. And every Westminster student has this right to have, to have their voices heard when it comes to mental health, and it's their right to feel supported, regardless of, as I said earlier, their age, gender, religious affinity, or educational level.
Lovely, thank you. And in which case, if I can move on to a bit more about you and your manifesto. As an undergrad student, how do you resonate with postgrad students' problems? And are you planning to do a postgraduate degree yourself in the future?
So I knew this question was coming. A lot of people think that as an undergraduate, you should not apply for this role because you either don't deserve it or anything. But for example, the current Vice President of Postgraduate Education was an undergraduate herself when she applied for it, and she has honestly done a wonderful job and has brought some amazing reforms to the SU. So which I hope to build upon. She's been an inspiration, and education is something that I'm very passionate about, especially higher education. And with regards to my future aspirations, if elected, I will be doing a part-time master's alongside this role, which I believe will benefit me a lot in terms of, networking with students as their friend, and being able to, experience it for myself. And because gaining feedback from postgraduate students is one of the biggest problems that VP postgraduate might
About
face.
10 seconds.
Yeah, so I believe that will help me. I will be able to, experience it myself and get the feedback from them. And then on the other hand, I can work to improve them as a VP postgraduate. So, yeah.
Okay. In that case, Aliza, if I understood correctly, you were talking about wanting to do a part-time postgraduate alongside the role. This, of course, is a very intensive role. It's full-time on the job description. How would you manage to fit all of the responsibilities in alongside additional study?
So, firstly, I have spoken to a lot of sabbatical officers from other universities who have taken this, who are doing the same thing or who have done something similar in the past, and all of them have talked about it. Yes, of course, it is a difficult decision, but at the same time, it is manageable. That's why there are so many sabbatical officers doing the same thing, doing a part-time degree alongside their full-time role. And moreover, I believe my current and past experiences have shaped me into an individual who is, able to handle workload quite efficiently. Even right now, alongside my full-time degree, I'm also working at a charity organization. I also work with volunteering in so many roles, as well as doing my full-time job, part-time job. Sorry. So I believe I will be able to handle it as long as the SU supports me throughout it.
Okay, thank you. In which case, thinking about the manifesto, you've already mentioned actually in conversation as well that it's been a bit of a challenging time for students, and of course, university has its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. Would you say that your experience at Westminster has been good overall? And if not, what would you do as a VP to help others who have experienced similar challenges?
So I believe even now, as soon as I've started campaign, people know the experiences that I've had in the past or I'm doing right now. And I've received a lot of DMs on Instagram asking, how did you achieve those? How did you manage to get those, how did you manage to get all those experiences? We've not been able to have them, especially during this COVID-19 time. Everything has been closed down. Like a lot of firms are not offering work experience. So it's really important that the university, ensures that opportunities like volunteering, internships, or extracurricular activities awards are promoted to all students within the university, no matter what level, educational level they are. And what I plan to do is to have a newsletter, a weekly news, a fortnightly newsletter. Sorry about that. Which will have all the information regarding society events taking place on campus, and volunteering opportunities or work experience opportunities like talent, the university talent hunt that's there as well. So I believe just to increase the way the university communicates with people, that can be achieved.
Okay, thank you, Aliza. And in that case, so following on the theme of communication, what would you do in order to make postgraduate students at the university feel like more of a community? You've talked about the newsletter, you've talked about sort of engagement with club and society events. How else would you support bringing together the postgraduate community?
So I will continue the amazing work that Ismahan, the current Vice President of Postgraduate, has been doing with regards to lobbying the university to increase library hours during this summer, because majority of postgraduates work and study during summer, during semester 3. So it's really important that semester 3 library hours reflect semester 1 and 2, and students don't feel as if they're not getting what they're paying for. And it's not only for postgraduates, they will also be able to communicate with undergraduate students if the libraries are open for longer hours during semester 3. Especially now, due to the pandemic, a lot of students have not been able to, working from home is not suitable for everyone. I personally struggle with it a lot. So it's really important that students have access to the right equipment and a quiet space to study. So longer library hours is something that I will work on.
Okay. Thank you. And I was looking today at the role description for VP Postgraduate Education, and along with all of the other officers, it's an expectation that the whole team will be championing inclusion and indeed liberation. So, how do you propose to champion liberation if successfully elected?
So my aim would be, I think this goes back to the previous questions you were asked as well, would be to work with sport clubs and societies to ensure that postgraduates are represented as equally as current undergraduate students are. So, to ensure all that they are able to enjoy society events just like other students, and that also, the BME attainment gap, because on my manifesto I have said I will BME to tackle the BME attainment gap will be a priority for me. And in order to do that, the thing that I'm going to do is to basically liberate the curriculum, and then that goes back to the same thing, and basically enhance diverse environment on the campus, which can enhance their learning capabilities. If they feel safe, they are going to learn better.
Okay, thank you. And in that case, I think the last question, which comes from the audience today, you've spoken a lot about additional things to get involved with, but of course, postgraduate students are often quite time poor with the demands of studies or research, and indeed may only be in a few times a week actually in person at university. So what would you do to ensure that events are still accessible to postgraduates?
So it kind of takes me back to the newsletter. The whole point of that is to ensure that postgraduates don't miss out on any event that's taking place. And also, what on my manifesto I've said that I will campaign to increase contact hours for postgraduate students, be it masters or research students, because postgraduates pay a substantial amount of fee. Therefore, increased contact time can really, provide valuable stuff to them. So it's really important to have more contact time, and that can also, going back to my first point, that can also help them with, feel better about mental health and speak to their personal tutor or anyone on campus. So yeah.
Great, thank you. In which case, that's all the questions from me. But before we go, Alize, is there anything that you'd like to say to the people at home about why they should vote you to be the future VP for postgraduate education?
Education is power, and power needs powerful representation. My current and previous experiences have shaped me into an individual who is determined to make changes we need and capable of handling the responsibilities that come with implementing those changes, as well as working in this role in general. Vote for me to make sure that your voice is heard and you make the most out of your experience here at Westminster. Thank you.
Thank you, Alize. Great to hear more from you. So next up, we've got our next candidate for the position of VP Postgraduate Education, and that is Saeed Taha. Hi, Saeed. Just to let you know, you're on mute at the moment. No, there we go. Hi, thank you for joining us. So question number one. Could you please introduce yourself for everyone and tell them what your number one priority for the year ahead would be?
Yeah, hi, my name is Sayyid Muhammad Talha. I'm a business management student. I'm in my third year of studies. And my number one priority for this year will be focusing solely on employability, because as we all know, because of the corona, what happened, a huge amount of job losses and all. So that would be my focus for postgrad students, so giving them all the help they need to get a good job. And of course, the guidance. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Saeed.
and one more thing, just don't mind the background. I'm at a wedding, so.
Well, in that case, thank you for joining us. We all appreciate the challenges of tuning in remotely. Now, I asked our previous guest how they were planning to represent postgrads from the position of being an undergrad themselves. And of course, you're currently an undergrad student. So I was keen to understand more, Saeed, about the specific problems that you think affect the postgraduate community and how you resonate with them. So what do you think are the real challenges other than employability facing postgrads?
Well, as we all know, first of all, the visa sponsorship for postgrad students at Westminster is for 16 months, right? So well, like I completed like 3 years in London, so my experience was far better than, like, in my first year I learned something, then in my second year I learned something more. So I don't think so like the PG students get enough time to experience things. The course is for like 8 or 9 months, and they just finish the course and they go back home, and they even try to get a job, but the amount of time they spend in London and in the university is very less. So I think enhancing the visa sponsorship would be a good thing for, especially for international students. I'm not talking about the home students,
Okay, Said,
because the
and following on
majority
this,
is, yeah.
okay, following on from that, obviously all universities in the UK have to follow government legislation that comes from the Home Office about visa requirements and so on. So do you think it's realistic for the university to be able to extend visas for postgraduate students? Isn't that the Home Office's job?
Yeah. Now, as you know about, I'll name few universities like University of Greenwich and I think Kingston University. They are sponsoring like 26 months of visa instead of normal 16 months. So I don't think so it's a problem, and we don't need a home ministry to interfere. It's because the visa is sponsored by the university, not by the government. So it's up to the university, like, so they can sponsor visa for much longer duration.
Okay, thank you, Saeed. We may get some fact checkers behind the scenes on that very knotty, challenging issue, but thank you. Let's move on. And in the manifesto, you've talked about LinkedIn and how you want to help postgrad students to make the best of it by networking with people in and around their academic field. How do you plan to do that, and how effective have you found LinkedIn to be?
Well, to be honest, I started using LinkedIn recently, but I have spoken to a lot of professionals and people who had good posts in big corporate companies. So, connecting people on LinkedIn, you expand your network basically. You get to know people who are working at maybe at your similar position as you, or who are just freshers, or who are like experienced people. So the most of the companies, as you all know, they view your profile on LinkedIn. All right. So I want to basically give guidance to the postgrad students how to manage their LinkedIn profile and how to manage the social media basically to get get better at their careers basically.
Okay, thank you. Next up, then, we've spoken a little bit tonight about the attainment gap. And I know that this is an issue that is important to you as well. So what do you plan on doing to tackle inequality, broadly speaking, at Westminster, and in particular, focusing on the attainment gap?
Attainment gap. Well, I have no comments right now. I need to think about that. But definitely, I'll do something about that. Well, at the moment, I haven't given it a thought.
Okay, in that case, going back to what you were saying about employability, and of course, this has been a theme in both your manifesto and what you've been talking about tonight. What do you think are the real challenges, other than COVID, when it comes to postgraduates' employability? What specifically are you going to do to tackle that?
Well, my priority would be to get students, like postgrad students, at least some job experience somewhere around university or outside university to, basically, I'll give you an example. For example, about Uber. There was passengers, there were taxis, but it was like a platform to connect them both. So there are like plenty of businesses who are looking for right candidates for for the jobs. So I want to focus on postgrad students getting enough jobs so they can enhance the CV and move on with their careers. So that's number one issue. Students that don't have enough experience while it comes to working.
Okay, thank you. And thinking about the postgraduate community, which has been a bit of a theme for us tonight as well. Obviously, postgrads at any university form a very rich and diverse community, particularly when we think about the combination of master's students and PhD students, many of whom have come back to study after some time. So we've got a big age range, a big mix of interests and so on. And I'm interested to know, are there any issues affecting PhD students in particular that you would like to focus on?
Well, look, what the matter with PhD students is they have like a big amount of time to complete the thesis. Age is not a problem. When it comes to postgrad students, they have to complete their masters and move on straight to on the jobs. For PhD, it's more like theoretical work. So I don't think so there's like a problem for them. Writing PhD from distance is not a problem, but doing masters, it is.
Okay, thank you, Saeed. And in terms of the sorts of events and activities that you'd want to do to support the postgraduate community at Westminster, have you got any thoughts on a particular event or campaign that you would like to run in the year ahead?
Well, personally, there's a fee gap between international and local students, home students. My priority, like with this, would be to minus that gap. Basically, so home students are paying around £9,400, and international students are paying around £13,500. So and about the social events, personally, I think students like who go to London, they like the London vibe. So I think informal events such as party, like hosting parties and all, would be something good, you know, for the networking thing. And of course, like the career fairs and all.
Okay, thank you. And in that case, just going back to your point about fees, and I think this is probably the last question that we've got time for tonight, but what would you do in terms of concrete action to tackle this difference between home and international fees, especially in the midst of the financial challenges that COVID is presenting all universities with?
Say that again. I didn't get your question.
Sorry, that's my fault. Imagine you're in a meeting with senior university management and they tell you, unfortunately, we can't do anything to reduce student fees, whether that's UK or international, or to bridge the gap. There simply isn't any money because of the pandemic. How would you tackle the situation?
Like, are you asking about my reaction? Like, what would I ask the management or in general?
Well, I'm interested to understand how.
First of all, moving online, like there's a great amount of reduction in the running costs of the university, right? No one's accessing the university physically. So I think there's a great amount of money which is being saved, and there is a gap between the fees. I mean, if they're taking 9,400 from the home students, why they cannot do the same with international students? The international students, they have to pay more for everything, basically. It's up to the university, and if university refuses, then I can only do a campaign. Then there's nothing that can be done. But as I said in my manifesto, that I'll be continuing the fight to reduce the fee. Basically, I didn't promise that. It will be like one of my priorities.
Okay, Saeed, thank you. I think that's everything that we have time for. But before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to say about why voters should vote for you to be the next the next VP for postgraduate education?
Well, I mean, people, I think they've already. Someone in the chat box said, "You said you spend LinkedIn networks, but you have only 11 followers." I think that's very stupid to say. I'll be working hard with the university. I want to work for the student community. That's why I made those promises on my manifesto. And all I can say that I think I deserve a chance, and people should trust me with their votes. And hopefully, I'll stand up to the promises. Okay.
Okay, Saeed, thank you so much.
And I apologize as well. I'm at a wedding, so don't mind.
That's no problem at all. Thank you for joining us. It's been great to hear more from you, Saeed.
Thank you.
So for those at home, if you tuned in partway through, that was Saeed, who, due to the challenges of the year, was having to join us from a wedding. But please don't let that affect your impressions of the night. Next up, for the position of VP for Postgraduate Education, we have Suryanshi Klara.
Hi.
Hi, Suryanshi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Over the next sort of minute or so, would you mind introducing yourself to everyone and explaining what your priority for the year would be?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Suryanshi Kalra. I did my master's in human resource management, and I'm an international student from India. One of the main reasons for me to stand for this position was because I did most of my studies as an international student back home, right when my course started. So I know exactly how it feels to not know like how much uncertainty is there when all of this is happening. So my main priority, if elected, would be to make sure that the international students are well looked after, that their mental health is well looked after, and especially to allow them to interact with other students in a well structured manner so that they can have some support amongst themselves. Because as international students, we have no idea what city we are coming in, what I would say, what kind of university living we're going to have. And all of this being online, the pressure is really a lot on all of us to really do well in our studies, but also enjoy and get the exposure which we came here for. So I would say my priority would be to ensure that the international students are genuinely looked well after so that they don't have any problems, and to help them settle in properly, so they can actually enjoy the experience which they came for.
Okay, thank you, Suryanshi. Next up then, looking at your manifesto,
Okay.
you've mentioned about new ways of learning and teaching. What is it that you mean by this?
So for me, new ways of teaching and learning would be, as we didn't have a lot of access time towards us, and not, I would say, a lot of library access to us. So I feel like if situation is better in the next upcoming months, I would personally would really like if the students were able to actually access the campuses and the libraries and all the facilities which they have available for us, as just opposed to studying at home. So I would feel like an equal division of hours for different courses, to really enhance the experience by being there if possible. And if not, I would say to have virtual programs where they can have, a proper tour of the university, or where they would feel that they're at least in the university, even if they're, being back at home and sipping coffee while they're actually attending classes.
Thank you. And also on the manifesto, you've mentioned about forming counselling services.
Yes.
And support groups. So some of these services do already exist at Westminster. So how do you plan to engage postgraduates with the pre-existing services?
So for me, I would say that I would kind of make divisions for international students in terms of like all the postgraduate students. I would say in terms of international ones and the regular ones, I would say that they would have a different counseling sessions with different, I would say, teachers or their tutors to really help them with their mental health, because I feel anxiety is one of the things which has really risen up in the students during this time, because they have so much pressure to perform well, but also are restricted in so many ways. So I would say to really conduct different events to really enhance and make sure that they feel that there is somebody, and there is a platform where they can come and talk to people.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Suryanshi. And thinking about this postgrad community, how is it that you want to bring postgrads together? How would you build a postgraduate community at the university?
I would say to conduct as many virtual events as possible. So I personally believe that one individual can have many interests, and the only way an individual can grow is if they have the opportunity to perform in those interests. So if I would say any student coming in the university in this scenario, I would say if they have the option to really engage in an art form which they like, or I would say in any language which they like, or even if any community which they feel connected to, or any belief which they have. And I personally believe that the university has a lot of societies which cater to, I would say, pretty much all the audience there is possible. So I would say to really inculcate the societies with the students and create events which would allow them to feel excited to join it and to meet new students. And I feel because it's very difficult to, I would say, interact with different students and genuinely make friends, I would say these events would just help them to have a better social life if possible. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a social life, it's gonna be a little difficult to be an all-rounder student as well.
Thank you. And thinking about you've mentioned yourself, you're an international student.
Yeah.
So thinking about tuition fees, what are your thoughts on tuition fees this year? And do you have any plans around this if you're successfully elected?
To be very honest, I feel tuition fees is one thing which every international student can mutually agree was a really, a heartbreaking kind of, I would say, aspect which all of us had to go through, because what all of us kind of paid for was not what was delivered. But I honestly believe that it wasn't anybody's fault, because the university couldn't know how much, impact the situation was going to have on us. So in that sense, I believe they really made sure to, do their best. But I feel like as the new students are going to come in, their expectations are going to be a bit higher, because now we are a little familiarized with the situation. So I would say, if possible, if given the opportunity, I would say I would definitely put this in motion to at least pause the fees for international students, or not increase it per semester or like per year, if like that's possible. But yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
and thinking about this a bit further, obviously, it's very challenging, as I've mentioned with other candidates, for universities to be able to change tuition fees, or at least
For
to bring
sure.
them down. Is there anything that you think the university could do to improve the value for money for international students?
I personally believe the only way this was possible is going to be with virtual events, because even till now, a lot of students are studying back home. I was fortunate enough to come back and then attend my online classes. But I feel a lot of students are not going to take that risk unless that it's fully, good for them. And I don't blame like the students for, wanting to stay back home, because it's really hard to leave your home back and then shift to a different country and then, be in like living in a situation which is so uncertain. And it definitely worries the parents. So I feel like if the university were to able to ensure the parents, I would feel more than the students, that they are handling it the best way possible. And I would say inclusion of more virtual events, which would, I would say, diversify the situation for all the students, because Westminster is one of the universities which I genuinely love because of how many like diverse cultural students are there. So I would say in
Thank you.
that sense, I definitely would say virtual events are one thing which can really take this a far place if given the right opportunity.
Thank you. And in that case, I'd like to go to an audience question now. And someone's written here that postgraduate students comment that a lot of what the union does feels like it's aimed at undergraduate students and undergraduate students only.
Yeah.
So are there particular things that you think that the union should do for just postgraduate students?
Of course. I think one of the main aspects which I personally experienced was guidance with job opportunities. As an international student, and especially now knowing that we have a post-work visa of 2 years for international students, I would say if the union had proper guidance, and and if they kind of, I would say, blend in with the mentors. So I mean, so University of Westminster has a mentor, mentor service which they offer to students. So I would say if the blend between the mentors and the union to really help the international students get an idea of how to apply for the jobs, the requirements which they need, the monetary requirements which they need, and the grades which they would require to actually get a job in one of the top companies, and to really settle down if they want to in London, or even for the next 2 years, let's say for the work visa. I would say the union really needs to focus on that aspect for postgraduate students.
Thank you, Suryanshi. Well, I think that's everything that we have time for. But before we go, is there anything else that you would like to say for all of the voters that are tuning in about why they should vote for you as the next VP for postgraduate education?
I think the only thing I can say is I understand what you're going through. I've already done that. I've been there, done that completely. I started my course last year in Jan when COVID had just come in March. So I would say 90% of my education was online. So I know that if I had someone to really guide me in that direction where I wouldn't feel this uncertain regarding the whole situation, I know that I definitely, would have done a little bit better. And I feel any student who's coming in new now, or the ones who have joined in, your mental health is equally as important as your studies. So I feel if elected, that's one thing I would say my focus would be, that your mental health should not suffer just for grades. it should be a division of both equally. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. In that case, Suryanshi, thank you for joining us. That's
Thank you
everything
so
that we have time
much.
for. Now, our last candidate that we're going to hear from tonight for the role of VP Postgraduate Education is Urte Mitkaite. Do we have Urte with us?
Hello.
Hi, Urte. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited
It's
to
been a
be
long
here. I'm
session,
really
hasn't
excited.
it?
You know, it has, but there's been some great candidates, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you as well. So I guess with that in mind,
Mhm.
we've had this pre-prepared question for everyone. So would you mind introducing yourself and explaining what your #1 priority for your year would be?
Right. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Urte. I'm from Lithuania, so I know my name is a bit tricky to pronounce. My nickname is Temi in that case. And I moved to London 4 years ago now to study tourism and events management in University of Westminster, which I finished, which I graduated from last year. And it was a bit of a bummer because events and tourism industry, when everyone kind of didn't have a chance to attend live events or travel, I made a decision to study another of my passions in master course, which is music business management, because I'm a DJ as well in my personal life. So now currently I'm a part-time music business management postgraduate student. And my #1 priority for this year is, for the next year is, I would say, to be flexible and adaptable, because we saw how things change and nothing is certain even to this day. And I think being adaptable, adaptable to change is very important coming forward. And I would say that would be #1 priority.
Okay, thank you, Urte. On to the sort of prepared questions that we've got here that Urte hasn't been given. Yesterday, you attended the question time for the activities role, and of course, that's very different from the VP Education role. So which do you feel more confident with, and why?
Actually, that is very interesting question. Just giving a bit of a background, maybe when I saw the opportunities of attending the elections, I actually chose the undergraduate role first, because I just finished bachelor's degree, so I thought that I would resonate most with. But then I had a talk with the tutor, one of the student unions tutor that I was assigned, and she actually kind of advised me, because I am currently studying part-time online course that is a bit of a unique experience for some postgraduate units, and something that would be good to relate to, because I already finished full-time, like kind of on-site learning, and then I felt that I would also relate to. But activities I chose because I finished events, and in general I'm very creative. I'm very passionate about making things, organizing events, and I believe postgraduate is in a way similar to
That's
it. I mean,
exactly.
undergraduate and postgraduate. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's kind of similar. Organizing things is just maybe more to the educational experience, which I can see my colleagues going through and that I'm going through myself now. So I feel I could relate to both types of, like, full-time,
Okay, so
on-site.
let's focus on these sort of educational issues.
Mhm.
What do you think are the big issues for postgraduates at the moment, and what would you like to do about them?
Well, definitely employability, the career, then unknown of how to get internship, how to get into careers, because I think most of the students that chose postgraduate course are very career job oriented, for which I could suggest, I don't know if that's a part of the question, but which I experienced is because I also finished my undergraduate course when the lockdown started, and our lecturers organized digital internship opportunities where they contacted multiple organizations, companies around the world that might need a student's help. And so they kind of provided the digital internship, which I think it's also one of the big opportunities with in a digital virtual world, because obviously okay, sorry. Because it's obviously we're all locked down, but then also we have the worldwide, I mean, international audience reachable now, so that would be one of the suggestions.
Okay, thank you. And we've spoken a lot tonight about the postgraduate community. I'm interested from your perspective, what do you think are the barriers to participation for postgrads?
I would say one of this time, because they are extremely busy with studies, and I can see my colleagues, obviously as a part-time student, I have a bit more flexibility, but I can see that I think my colleagues have double the work that I do now. So I think the main obstacle is not the motivation to attend, but just not being physically enough to manage the studying time and to also participate in extra activities. So
Okay, thank you. And moving on, thinking about the support that is available to postgraduate students, what do you think about the level of support that's available for postgrads? And do you have any plans to improve it?
I think university is doing best. Hopefully next year students will be able to attend on lectures on campuses, on sites where there are societies and like regular meetings that are available for students. But in case, again, flexibility, adaptability, in case that is still will be in a hybrid way, I think it's important to have both options, to have enough activities and places for students to go on site and also online. So yeah, I think university did a great job in the past year to provide enough digital support, but maybe improve of more weekly, monthly meetings online for international students and someone that might be attending online, and have both equally strong prepared options.
Okay, thank you. And in that case, we're going to go on to a question that we've had from the audience tonight. And Temi, how do you plan to support postgrad students' mental health specifically, especially those in underrepresented groups?
Good question. Well, I think we have a welfare candidates, and we have a societies that are focused on it. But obviously mental health is very important, and a topic that's been spoken about and discussed in the last year. And yeah, I think just a part of making events and projects, I think I spoke some of the most important topics is obviously the Black Lives Matter, the mental health, the sustainability. There's just these trending, very important topics that cannot be ignored. So I think there would have to be certain projects and series of events happening around each topic. So depending on which group and what is the need. But my plan would be to listen, to make surveys, to have feedback, to hear feedback from students of what is that in the unrepresented group that needs attention, because obviously I think university has been doing a great job I think it's one of the most, if it's not number one, diverse university in London or UK, I believe. So I think there is definitely a place for it to make such projects.
Thank you. Well, in that case, those are all of the questions that I have. But before we go, is there anything that you'd like to say to everyone at home about why they should vote for you?
Yeah, just obviously I think I've been in the university for the last 3.5 years, and I'm planning to stay for another year to being a part-time student. And I would love to use my knowledge in events and personal life education that I've experienced so far to help. And what I would like to say, everyone, is that obviously we're home now, to not forget to vote because not to use any excuses, and make sure that next week you log in and you vote and you go for all the candidates and you choose the best for you. And yeah, just choose carefully and vote and encourage others to vote.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing with us that little bit more about your campaign. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you.
That is our last candidate who has been able to join us tonight. If you head on over to uwsu.com/elections, you'll be able to see the whole range of manifestos, including from candidates who unfortunately weren't able to join us live for this question time. If you weren't here at the introduction, just a reminder as well that if you missed the VP activities or VP welfare debates, you can catch up by going to that same link. That's uwsu.com/elections, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. In a few minutes' time at 7 o'clock, so just over an hour, we're going to hear from the candidates for VP Undergraduate Education, and then we'll be hearing from candidates for the role of President tomorrow. So please do join us again then. And note that voting begins next week and will run until Thursday, if I remember right. All of the details are on the link at the bottom of the screen, and we use a preferential voting system, meaning that you can vote for more than one candidate. Just put a 1 next to your top candidate, and if they don't win, then your vote can be passed on to the number 2, number 3, and so on, if you choose to vote for more than one. For now, though, it's been fantastic to share the evening with you. Thank you so much for having me, Westminster, and good luck in the elections. Bye for now.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Saeed Al-Qadiri, and welcome to the Westminster Students' Union's 2021 elections question time for our Vice President of Undergraduate Education candidates. I hope you've enjoyed the first half of question time tonight, where our candidates for VP postgraduate officers got asked a range of questions. Hopefully, after that, you'll have an idea of what candidates best support your views and your voice. The second half, we'll be moving on to our Vice President of Undergraduate Education. Similar to the postgraduate role, this officer will work to inform policy on all academic matters relating to the undergraduate students of Westminster. Tonight, we're going to invite each candidate into the stream, where they'll be answering questions previously submitted by you, our students. We'll also be taking live questions to make sure you put your questions in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube. And each candidate will begin with a minute introduction, and then we'll give them 30 seconds to answer some questions that have been submitted by yourselves. So I would like to introduce the first candidate, Fatima Zain.
Hi.
Hi,
I hope you can hear me. Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Good
Shall I
evening.
just get started with the introduction?
Introduction and tell everyone, what your number one priority will be for the year.
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name's Fatma. I'm a recent graduate of Arabic and Global Communications from the Regent's campus and also your current VP undergrad. My top priority, if re-elected, is working around or focusing on the main issues around mitigating the problems that students are facing currently surrounding online learning and teaching. And also working to ensure that students are ultimately satisfied with the learning that they are receiving online. I think with the whole current situation that we're in currently, it's given us an opportunity to kind of rethink the approaches to teaching and learning that the university have taken and kind of work to provide more experiences that are more interactive, engaging and collaborative for the students.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Fatima. So here's some questions. Will you be doing anything to help students who are financially struggling and come from low income or low income families?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. I think oftentimes this is something that's quite overlooked, an issue that's quite overlooked. For me, what I have found in my role is that oftentimes students don't, it's not that students don't apply for these hardship funds that the university provides and bursaries that is provided by the university, but oftentimes students feel that they aren't eligible enough to apply and think of their hardships as like less than others. So what I want to kind of do and work around focusing is looking at the criteria for these bursaries and hardship funds that the university is putting out there to students and working to standardize it and also amending the criteria so more students feel that they are eligible.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Second question. Who do you think should be prioritized when coming back onto campus?
That's also another good question. I think currently with the issues that students who study practical courses are facing, I think there should be a priority to focus or prioritize, practical students, particularly final year students who haven't had, the opportunity to come onto campus and actually get involved or like use the whether it's equipment or labs and the actual services that the university provides. So I think, coming back on campus, I think I'd push to, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Another question. So what will you do in favor of liberation campaigns and students that sort of identify with those campaigns on campus?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure probably a lot of students know that the SU currently has introduced the liberation officers. So in the future, I would like to work more closely with the liberation officers and kind of working together on the campaigns that they're doing and taking on their feedback to, the relevant university staff members and kind of raising awareness around the type of issues and like work that they're doing around the campaigns and their sort of work as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. You've mentioned the student fee refunds in your manifesto.
Yeah.
Can you explain what steps you plan to take on this?
So this was something that I actually thought for a while to whether to put in my manifesto, as we all know that students currently feel that they aren't getting their value for money. What I kind of want to do, or the approach that I want to take with this, is kind of put a support mechanism in place in the union for students who genuinely feel that they have been missold and feel that they have not received their tuition fees, to take the necessary actions and the necessary steps in getting their tuition fee refunds. On top of that, I want to work alongside national campaigns and action groups to create a student-led movement and essentially create change for students and give students what they want.
Brilliant. So I've got a couple of questions, I think, from the live feed. So what will you do about getting good student feedback?
I think in this case, I would say utilizing our digital rep system and working closely with our school representatives and course representatives, and ensuring that we are getting constant feedback from our school and course reps, and relaying that feedback onto the higher kind of like university body. Also, I feel like working to close that feedback loop to ensure that students aren't just giving us their feedback and feel that nothing's been done about it. So that's the kind of things that I want to work to improve.
And last question, I believe. You mentioned financial support for students. The university says there is a lot, but there's never any real information about it. What are you going to do to ensure more students are aware of the financial assistance that could be provided to them?
Again, I think that this is something that comes down to communication. I feel like oftentimes with, for example, students, for example, personal tutors being first point of contact for students, I feel like personal tutors need to be equipped in kind of dealing with these type of questions that they get from the students, whether it is to do with their academics or whether it is to do with their well-being, financial aid, career-related issues. And that's also some of the stuff that I will look into working on in the future as well.
Brilliant. So we've got this quite quick, so we've got some time. If you want to give a closing statement, some final remarks, your last thoughts that you want to share with Westminster students.
Just thanks for listening, everyone, and to also say that my time as your current undergrad officer has allowed me to build a kind of strong foundation and given me a great insight into like the university structures. And I think, moving on from this, I would really like my growing passion within the higher education has allowed me to want to continue to represent you guys and to actually create, effective change for students. And that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fatima. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to students this evening. Emily, we're going to go to our next candidate, Keaton.
Yep. Hi.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
Evening. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself and telling everyone what your number one priority for the year would be?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Keaton, running to be your new VP undergrad here at Westminster. So, if elected, my main priorities are accessible learning, better quality online teaching, better communication between staff and students, and improved industry connections and opportunities as part of your course. So this includes decolonizing the curriculum, tackling the BMAE attainment gap, making classes more accessible for those who struggle with the traditional format, whether online or physical, and fairer marking changes in response to COVID-19. And I wanted to just thank everyone who has been supporting my campaign so far over on Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Got a couple of questions for you. So you've mentioned in your manifesto you want online learning to be on par with face-to-face. Do you think that's realistic? Tell us a bit more about what you think.
So rather than exactly on par, it's more about accessible learning. So obviously this has become more accessible through live online class, but some people struggle with the format. So we can create better online teaching by avoiding the blackboard of death. So teaching staff how to be more engaging online, more interactive classes, and encouragement of a sense of community built virtually within schools and courses. We also need to create access to facilities that students need, or we should omit some marking criteria that expects them to have these resources. If the university can't provide them, why should that be expected? I still believe there should be some reduction or refund of fees, considering regardless, we'll never get the exact same experience, but we can definitely improve upon what we're currently doing to make it as close to physical as we can.
Brilliant. You in your manifesto, you also mentioned the attainment gap. Do you have any specific plans to tackle structural inequality at Westminster?
So the attainment gap is, currently we have BMAE focus groups. For example, the Black Student Experience Focus Group held in October is a perfect example of this. And working with BMAE student complaints we receive and these focus groups, we can establish what parts of our current curriculum or teaching format BMAE or international students are currently struggling with. For example, in response, we can change those behaviors so that our courses can become more fair and inclusive rather than Euro or Anglo-centric, which most of the courses at Westminster currently are. So that's my initiative and plan.
Fair enough. You proposed to have a job-ready degree. I assume it was a sort of pun on sort of Brexit ready, oven ready. And you stated in your manifesto. How do you propose this to sort of come about?
So currently, anyone who works in higher education, I work part-time and ad hoc in higher education, knows that most lecturers at our university have good connections. It's something we're promised when we sign up at Westminster. We always say, you know, world-leading London University. However, personally, on my course, and I found a lot of Westminster Business School courses as well as the School of Arts, which I'm in, we have a lot of tutors who have these connections, but generally they tell us this and they advertise it, but I've not seen how that's going to help me other than, obviously they do have some, you know, guest lecturers who come in and that's great and I still want to keep that up, but I feel like 9 out of 10 of my industry connections, for example, Tate as an art student, if I was to contact them and say, oh, can you do a 1-day or 2-day workshop for all of my cohort or like a class, they would likely say yes. And I feel like we need to push for more qualifications that are free and available and affordable by the university, as well as, you know, getting these connections that these tutors have, using them to the students' advantage, aside from just education, but also opportunities.
Brilliant. You've also stated a faster turnaround on student concerns. Do you have any idea of what type of concerns students have? So, you know, share those with us.
So one good example, I'll give you 2 good examples. So the first one is on my course, my entire cohort as a collective of third years decided to email our tutor, and our tutor didn't respond to the email. They promised us that they would have a whole class discussion, and that never happened for over 2 months now. So what I propose is a 5 working day response period. So they don't have to do like something huge, but just respond to students within 5 working days, as if it was an extension for students. Staff should also be more responsible about how they're responding and the time they're responding, because in any professional environment, it's never okay to spend 2-3 weeks to respond to someone.
Yeah. And we've got a question from the live stream. So you mentioned about decolonizing the curriculum in your opening statement. What steps do you plan to take on this?
Well, aside from hearing what students have to say about it, it's also about being currently aware about issues that specific courses are having, and with these focus groups, but also the environment around us. So what are other students at other universities saying, studying the gap and what these specific struggles. For example, a lot of international students find that the course presumes knowledge. Most courses at Westminster presume British education and knowledge. So it's mostly about finding what people are struggling with in terms of things such as, you know, the content that is presumed, but also the type of education they presume they've had, because education is vastly different between countries. I myself studied in America, and America is an English-speaking country, and it was already vastly different. So if that is vastly different, I can't even imagine how much the disparities between the education system are when people come from further education into higher education in our other country.
Brilliant. I don't know if we've got any more audience questions. Maybe just a follow-up from me then. Do you sort of, in terms of decolonizing in general, so the decolonizing agenda in general, do you feel it's you know, I mean, as part of your role would be to focus on sort of educational matters, but somewhat wider. Do you feel it's mainly prioritized towards a curriculum, or do you sort of see other areas where that has an impact on the kind of wider university experience?
Well, I hope to work really well with the welfare team. I have worked very closely with the current welfare officer, Lubaba. She's amazing. And I hope to continue the work with them to make wider sense of community for the university. It's not just about making the courses accessible, but overall Westminster should be an inclusive and welcoming space for all students of any nationality. So there should be ways that we can incorporate culture. For example, I participated in the South Asian Heritage Month in 2019. That was amazing because it brings my culture to other cultures and vice versa with other efforts for other ethnicities and cultures.
Brilliant. Okay, and just to wrap up, do you have a closing statement, some final remarks to share with students?
I would just like to say I'm someone who you will read in my testimonials, you can ask anyone that I know. I am someone who will unbelievably and ruthlessly lobby for anything that you struggle with at this university. I am known to be a ruthless force, and I will continue doing that. And whether I win or not, I fully support whoever the next undergraduate officer will be. And I will continue my work for LGBT plus minority and female students regardless. And I also want to thank Fatma because she has done an amazing job so far as the current VP of undergraduate education, and I support her fully.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Kitan. Thank you so much for your contribution this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was Kitan. We've got another candidate for you, Nandini. She's going to come up.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. Hello. How are you?
Good, good, good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Should we start off by quickly introducing yourself and telling everyone what your number one priority for the year would be?
Yes. So hello everyone. I am Nandini Agarwal, a second year digital media and communication student at the Harrow campus. And yeah, I'm currently in India and I have just completed 2 years of my undergrad, one on campus and one unfortunately online. So precisely why I wanted to run for a VP of undergrad education, because I feel that if there's one area I would want to contribute to in university, it would be the academic experience of the students. And among a lot of things, the first thing I want to focus on, if given I'm elected as the Vice President of Undergrad Education, would be to initiate more communication in between students, because I feel that communication is the key to everything. It's the key to good mental health. It's the key to feeling it's basically the key to feel that you belong to that particular place. So I want to have a very communicative and a very informative peer support system, which is basically that you have a student along with your personal tutor. You have a student support system who has basically been who's basically done the same modules as you have, who has done the same assignments as you have. So maybe a second year support system to a first year support system in the same. So yeah, I think communication would be my priority as the VP.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we've got a couple of questions for you. What are your thoughts on current issues around tuition fees and what will you do if you get elected?
So I think I was actually kind of expecting this question. So, I did my little research. So basically, it's not just about our university. A matter of fact, is that all the universities from around the world, they're facing the same problem. And a matter of fact is that there are universities in the world who have, instead of reducing the fees, have actually increased it. And our university being a completely public university, and given the I would say less support from the government when it comes to supporting university students, I feel that our university got less support from the government or from other outside facilities which could have supported them at such a crucial time. And I have been in India for over a year, and I totally I am totally in support of the fact that, studying at home, it's not the same experience as going out. So the tuition fees is kind of an issue. So if I'm elected as the VP of undergrad, I want to make sure that I creatively, I have a word with, or maybe I get in touch with some influential people who maybe from the government or from other people who can actually influence getting some support from the government for the university and the students. So hopefully, yeah.
Brilliant. That's really good. So some questions in terms of your manifesto. So you mentioned sort of student retail services being important, but there's already a student shop, the Hideaway, and the University Cafe. So why do you feel that's an important issue?
Okay, so this is actually kind of an interesting point I came across with. I genuinely wanted to have this. Before writing my manifesto points, I had a word with some of my friends who are currently studying in Canada and Australia, and wanted to realize what other facilities our university can have, apart from all the amazing opportunities it already offers us. So I came across this very nice point, which is basically about student retail services. It's not about the shops. It's basically about how a student can get more employment opportunities within the university. For example, the university offers all the basic facilities that any student would require on campus. For example, if a fashion student needs a photographer for an upcoming shoot or some upcoming project, he can have a list. He has a list of all the students, listed on the employment list of the university. So this would give an employment opportunity along with studies, which at least the art students like me, we can actually make full use of. Another example for this I would want to quote is the psychology students can get some part-time employment opportunities, which is basically how they can be a peer to talk to. And it's nothing but an additional employment opportunity on campus along with their academic experience. And especially the biggest benefit is that they're going to provide service in the field they're already studying in. So I think that would really benefit students not only from the art course, but also from other courses as well. So,
brilliant. Another question in terms of what you mentioned in your manifesto. You mentioned to have more interactive and creative courses. Can you explain? Oh, I think you mentioned to quote interactive creative course structure. And so can you explain kind of what you meant by that?
So, I currently I'm a media student. So, to being able to manage my studies on online, I want to have a very interactive course structure. So basically, I want my PowerPoint presentations when my lecturer is giving a lecture. I want my lecture slides to be impressive, to be quite engaging in a way that I genuinely want to study. And apart from the lecture slides, there are also in between activities, like apart from breakout rooms, because breakout rooms can get a little silent. I think most of the students can resonate with me on that one. So some fun ways to have more students engage in the lecture, both online and offline, because we are currently really unsure if we'll be going on campus. So keeping my mind open about it, I want to have a course structure which is not just about the field you're studying, but also gives you options to engage with other students in a creative way and have more frequent 2-minute breaks to just wait and catch your breath, something like that. And I want to get in touch with more course reps and module leaders for that. So hopefully.
Brilliant. And so a couple more questions. You stated for the need for more women and queer spaces on campus. There's already sort of lots of space constraints, and so students have spoke about not enough space for quiet time or for prayer area. How do you plan to introduce these spaces? We have to try to limit the answers a bit as well, so it's going to stick to sometimes.
So basically, I wanted to keep this point as one of my leading points in the manifesto, because I feel that there are still students, including me, who might feel a little insecure about their sexual orientation or anything, they might not be very comfortable about. So if they meet people at certain areas which are independently made for them. So I feel that way they can help, cope up with if if in case they are feeling a little stressful about it. I think more women's spaces, more queer spaces would lead to being surrounded by people who are the same thinking, to feel inclusive. It's all around inclusivity and communication with like-minded people. So that was basically the motive behind it. Yeah.
And last question for you. So on your point of students and employability options, students have said they already struggle for money and funding. So whilst it'd be great to sort of use fellow students for their work, for their labour, shouldn't you be, campaigning or advocating for them to be paid? What do you think about that?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you repeat?
So I think you in your manifesto you brought about the point of employability for students.
Yeah.
And as we know, students are already struggling for money and funding. And so I think my question sort of centered around sort of, couldn't we sort of, Westminster students be for example, paid for their work? And so your thoughts are on sort of, so that would be really helpful.
Okay, so basically for this process for this entire step to work out, it would require a lot of research work. How are we going to carry about, how are we going to get people onto one platform wherein they can meet and get more people who are actually employed. And of course, a lot of research will go into it, and I am trying to plan out how we're going to carry out it. But hopefully, as things get better and we get on campus, it'll be easy to actually implement this step, with more students getting an option to practice what they're studying in the campus as an employment opportunity. So yeah.
Brilliant. And so just to wrap up, any final comments, closing remarks for students?
I guess I know, because the thing is, I have studied 1 year on campus, 1 year online, and I know exactly how you're feeling. I know exactly what you would need as a part of your education, as a part of your academic journey on campus and on online. So I would want you to just take a decision depending upon what you require and who you want to represent your academic journey. So yeah, I think that's about it. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Nandini. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we have the next candidate, Tyler. Good evening, Tyler.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good. What about you?
I'm all right. I'm happy to be here. We start off like we did with everyone else, introducing yourself and telling everyone what your number one priority for the year would be.
Yeah, hi. I am Gillian Gabriel Beclia. A lot of you might know me by Tyler. And my number one priority is, I believe, improving, our education system for all of us. Because we know right now we're online is not the best, but we can still make it better, even when we come back as well.
Okay, brilliant. So some questions about your manifesto. So you mentioned space for students to do group work online. The question is, do you not think students are already sort of screen fatigued, and adding to that will decrease their mental health?
Well, no, when I said, a special study space, I meant, for example, like on campus. Because, for example, I don't know about a lot of people, but I've been at our library at Marylebone, and we have a lot of space, like classrooms are not being used. And, I believe we could use like some of those classrooms, responsibly put like, a certain amount of students in a classroom, and, in a group, which will help obviously more socializing as well, because you get to talk with your friends and do work at the same time. So you get less time, for example, being stuck at home and like watching your computer, which obviously will benefit all of us, because we still get some of that, university life, which will be great, as we haven't gone a lot of lately.
Cool. And so you've also spoken about the transition into university life. There's a big question here. What do you think are the issues that students face when starting university?
Well, I believe what I've known from my experience and some of my friends is a bit quite more different. It's more straightforward and more tackled on you, more independent. And some students are not exactly used to going, straight doing everything by themselves, which can be a little bit difficult at times. So, getting some help for that will obviously help you cope with university life as well. Like I've struggled a bit as well. But after like first year, you get used to it, I believe.
Brilliant. in your manifesto, you mentioned about trying for the university to get Russell Group status.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the right ambition for Westminster and its students? And
Yeah.
two, how do you think sort of that would happen?
Well, obviously, why wouldn't it be? Because I've looked at how a lot of Russell groups are. Like for example, Queen Mary or Oxford, and really we can do that ourselves, because it's not only like, for example, students or teachers. If we all together put the effort, make sure we study a bit harder, make sure our teachers, like for example, online right now, obviously some of our teachers are struggling since not all of us have done like online stuff, for example. If we look at something like that, like we improve it a bit more, that would obviously benefit both of us, teachers and students. So it's just more like the small, that are not really massively impactful stuff that will actually all together, in a big number, like 20,000 students, would help us boost a lot to becoming, more recognizable and better university.
And just the second part of the question, so how do you think Westminster will sort of transition into a Russell Group status? What's your plan that you'd be putting forward to the university about that?
I would look at, for example, like I said, right now we can't do a lot of, for example, any in classroom. So I will look at how we can improve our online system first. Like transition the teachers a bit more, like there's still some issues online, and helping some students more with like online coping right now, which I feel that'll be a good way to obviously help us improve. Being, as a university as a rule, in grades as well, because it's not easy to study online. Obviously, it's more hard, it's more harsh. So that's why I've also said in my manifesto I want to do some students at university and some at home, with the teachers being in their own classrooms, which I thought would be quite useful, because, well, if we have, say, for example, a certain amount of students, each week in class with teachers, that we get face-to-face help from the teachers, and there will be still some students online, and they could just keep swapping each week, which will obviously benefit us more than just having no teacher face-to-face and sitting at home.
Yeah. Okay, bro. Do you have any plans to tackle the attainment gap at Westminster?
Well, obviously, I've not looked too much into it, because it's still quite early stage. I want to first improve like our student life first. Look at what we can do better for right now. But I will, for example, look at how each course is doing as students, and see how they feel they're not doing, for example, not too great, or what they feel is lacking, and what we could obviously improve a little bit more.
And any plans on, for example, the big campaign on tuition fee refund? Do you have any thoughts or views?
Well, it's the refunds about, there's been quite a lot of debate about that. I've seen a lot, and it depends, obviously, because I feel like a lot of students believe that we should get a lot of our repay back, depending on how it's been online, which I sort of agree with, a little bit, because it's not exactly university life. So obviously it shouldn't be like full refund, but maybe we should have, a good amount of that money back, fully, because obviously the university needed themselves as well.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got a couple of questions from the live stream. What are your plans for improving feedback channels between students and course leaders?
Well, we have right now a lot. We use Blackboard, and teachers usually ask a lot, like, what opinions do you have on my lesson, or as I know, some classrooms have class reps, a lot of them, and we could start using that, I believe, that more. Using all those three together, seeing how students react to each of them and how they believe could be improved more, and obviously look at that more separately for each teacher individually to see what they could improve themselves, as some teachers have different teaching styles and opinions.
Okay, and I think students followed up with one of your answers from earlier. So you mentioned students getting familiar with university after first year, but there's many students still find it difficult to fit in. How will you support these students to be part of the Westminster community?
Well, obviously, since we can't do a lot of face-to-face right now, we could have, for example, online, like Zoom, for example, meetings where students that have been here for quite a bit of years now, they could explain how they're doing themselves, what they've done to tackle it, which I believe will be the best way, since they're prime first-hand example of how they've basically tackled all this, like converting from college to university.
Okay, brilliant. And so, do you have any closing remarks? Any final words?
Yeah. So, what I'd like to say is, I'm obviously a first-year student, like a lot of you people. So, I wish to do the best for university, and I've had in the past 3 years, experience in the student ambassador scheme, and I believe I could be a great VP for undergraduate education, since I know a lot of experience of how to handle students and the issues about education.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for participating this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, we're going to have our next candidate, Esanya. Welcome.
Hello.
Evening. Hello. How are you?
Thank you. Fine. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Brilliant. Shall we start off? And so, just a minute to introduce yourself and tell everyone what your #1 priority for the year would be.
That's right. My name is Ehsane. I'm studying at MA level in the University of Westminster. I'm studying teaching English for the speakers of other languages. And I hope that the students will vote for me and they will select for me as their representative.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. So some questions about your manifesto. You've mentioned a lot of points around free items that you feel students should have access to, such as Netflix account and gym memberships. But what educational issues do you think Westminster students are facing?
Yeah, in my idea, as I experienced, I saw that most of the... Is it disconnected?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see you for a minute. Most of the students, even my classmates, they have problem in their writing. I think we need to improve the writing of the students by having more sessions. And also, I believe that each field of the study should have a separate classes. For example, academic writing, we had all the students from all the fields. One of them is studying law, another one is studying English. I believe that it should be separated. It should be specific to the field of each student, not about 20 students in one class with different fields of study.
Okay, brilliant. Just to follow up from you, obviously you mentioned sort of free Netflix membership in your manifesto. What educational impact do you think that would have for students at Westminster?
You mean the Netflix?
Yes.
To be honest, why I mentioned the Netflix, because I was just considering the mental health of the student in this lockdown time. Because if we keep on having a lockdown for more, we need to have some kinds of mental health. We need to keep ourselves mentally healthy. But they can also watch some documentaries in the Netflix or something which is related to the science. I believe that it can be important and also useful for students.
Okay, brilliant. You also in your manifesto mentioned about webinars to support students finding jobs after university. Do you not think students have had enough of sitting at a screen?
Yeah, I was just thinking that again, it's just a problem like this because I myself take part in these webinars. It is just different students from different fields of study. I believe that we can cut it a bit short and also specific to some fields. Imagine some people are studying law in the university. They just be together in that webinar, not just all the people, all the students from different fields. I think that would be more beneficial if we make these webinars shorter and also related to specific fields, so we can help them and also we can tell them that which places they can apply after graduation in the UK or internationally.
Okay, brilliant. What are your thoughts on supporting the tuition fee campaign, and do you think students are getting value for money?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
So what's your thoughts on the tuition fee campaign, in particular, sort of the call for refunding of tuition fees for this year? And second part is, do you think students are getting value for money?
Yeah, I think it would be nice if the tuition fees become a bit, decrease a bit, because especially in this hard situation, sometimes it's really hard for a student to afford tuitions. Yeah, I think that's really good idea.
Okay, brilliant. And do you think students are getting value for money?
You mean that we can compare students, the identity of students with the money?
As in, do you think, as in sort of the fees that students pay and sort of the education they're receiving and the general services of the university, do you think that those are value for money currently?
Yeah, of course. This university is in UK. It is really highly educated. It has a good ranking among all the universities in the world. Imagine if someone is graduated from this university and come back to their own countries, they can get a really high-paid job because of studying in this university. But if possible, we can just decrease the tuition a bit. It would be really nice for them, for
Okay.
all the students. Yeah, because it can be affordable for most of the people.
Brilliant. And what are your thoughts on the current feedback system in place for students in terms of their academic needs and course leaders understanding what issues need to be fixed? So sort of the academic feedback. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I believe that students should have more meetings with their lecturers, and also maybe it's better that the amount of the sessions will be extended a bit more. Instead of having, for example, 15 sessions, we can extend it more so students can get more knowledge of their lecturers, and they can get much better feedbacks from their lecturer, because sometimes you know that it just finishes very quickly. I mean the sessions of the semesters.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so I think we've got a couple of questions from the live feed. In your manifesto, you've mentioned a lot around discounts for students. There are plenty of discounts already available to students. How will your plan conflict with the services that are already available?
Yeah, because when I go to the uni days, it's a kind of application that we can buy lots of stuff. To be honest, the amount of the discount, it's the same in their website. If you download their application, imagine for a clothes, yeah, it is no difference for the student and other people. That's why I was thinking students deserve more discount because of this, especially this hard situation that even the jobs are not that much available. I myself experienced that, yeah, the amount of discount should be a bit more for students.
Okay, and another question we've got, what do you plan to do about decolonizing the curriculum? You've heard lots of candidates speak about that. It's been a theme throughout the country in terms of student activists. What are your thoughts? What do you plan to do about decolonizing the curriculum?
Sorry, I didn't get that meaning of the
And
decolonize.
so the campaign around decolonizing the curriculum. And so lots of sort of students speak about it. Lots of campaigns have happened across the country. Do you have any plans to do something about that if you get elected?
No, I don't have any plan about it, but maybe later in the future I can have some nice ideas about it.
Fair
But
enough.
I haven't heard any yet. Yeah.
Okay. That's absolutely fine. And the last sort of over back to you. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share? Some last messages for students?
I will just, if they choose me, I will try my best to just do whatever that I can, and I will negotiate more with the university to just do the best what is good for the students, because I myself, I'm a student. Sometimes I struggle during my studies or about the financial issues. Anything can be about the anything. So I will try my best to just solve any problem that they have, and I will have a more contact with the students.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Hassan. Thank you so much for your time. Good evening. Brilliant. Okay, we have our next candidate, Yulia. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Okay, so we're gonna start off like we started off with everyone else. A minute to introduce yourself and tell everyone what your number one priority for the year would be.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Yulia. I'm third year graphic communication design student. I also have experience in background in law and with my previous studies, and therefore I know how to protect students' rights. And also, my number one priority would be to assign more assistant roles for teachers because we are transitioning now to the digital delivery, and so many tutors face problems with having too much administrative work, which they cannot handle because of lack of resources. And therefore, I think it will be this affects a lot our experience, because we don't get what we used to get before that. And to resolve that, we should assign more these part job opportunities for at the university to assist tutors, and therefore students will also benefit from that, as it will be part-time job for students.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So a couple of questions. So structural inequality has been an issue raised by students at Westminster and many other universities. What do you plan to do to tackle the attainment gap?
Again, can you repeat again the last?
So what do you plan to do to tackle the attainment gap?
Attainment rate?
Yes, the attainment gap. So the educational attainment gap. So the gap between, so the gap in outcomes between BAME students and so white students, for example.
White students and
BAME students.
Yeah, I sorry, it's just like internet connection. So the I think we should improve the make it accessible for everybody, and also like there are many problems that BAME students are facing while studies is maybe not equal attitude, and therefore we have to provide more boards, maybe some independent boards that will handle a situation that will opportunity for everyone.
Brilliant. So in your manifesto, you mentioned that you know how to protect student rights, and so what do you think are some of the issues that threaten those rights of students?
I think we students, we have a right for the good quality of education and the quality of education that we are paying for. And therefore, I think, as an academic representative of an academic experience, I think that equal treatment of the situations of the students, the affairs they might have, poor assessment, not getting feedback in time, not getting feedback at all, or not proper feedback, which doesn't help them to progress. So this is important issues that are all related to the academic rights. So I know how to negotiate these situations and what processes can be improved and where is the problem sitting there in the process that need to be handled.
Okay.
Protect the rights.
Yep, awesome. And so in your manifesto, you also mentioned that you know what happens behind Blackboard and how to improve that. And so you want to share some of those ideas of how you would improve Blackboard?
I think the Blackboard itself is very complicated and not accessible. It's very hard to find things inside the folders there, and I'm sure a lot of students experience that. And there should be more IT support for the Blackboard, and to make it better, and to make it work in the best way it can, so students can find things that they cannot find there.
Okay, that's great. We've got a couple of questions from the live stream. Do you think that students are getting value for money at the moment? And do you plan to do anything around the tuition fees refund campaign?
I support the campaign, since it's our academic experience has changed significantly, and therefore we are not getting as much time as we used to get from the tutors, and therefore it should be influenced in also the way we can access the library and the facilities. It also had been influenced, and therefore it's it's a valid reason to decrease tuition fees.
Okay, and do you have a particular? Do you want sort of full tuition fee refund, a partial tuition fee refund? What would you be advocating to the
most reasonable would be to reduce the tuition fee, and if the experience was in some cases was like completely not corresponding with what the university is mentioning in the curriculum, in the handbooks, and so on. So if it was completely not like promised, then it should be completely refunded in cases.
And a couple more questions. What kind of other forms of communication do you plan to introduce between course leaders and students?
Yeah, I will for sure keep in contact with students and while emailing this, like keeping in touch with societies, and also work with students' representatives. And as we are online now, it can be done through like online communication and Zoom calls. But as we are planning to move offline, I will meet with them in person to establish relationship, because I think that in-person meetings are very important for building trust and working with people.
Brilliant. And last question from me: will you push for a quicker return to campus, or do you think we should have a slow and steady approach for students to be returning to campus?
I would say this is necessary in the cases where like it cannot be done. Like, for example, I am a graphic communication design student, and we produce a lot of, like, we work with physical materials, and it's quite essential for us to return on campus. And I'm sure there are a lot of art students, like film and art, who suffer a lot from online studies.
Brilliant.
Yes.
You got any last words and any final remarks to share with Westminster students?
I'm sure that I have enough experience to work to be your representative, because I have been working within academia already back in my home country for 3 years. So I know how the university works and how the education works and how it can be improved to provide you with the best services that you're paying for.
Okay, thank you so much, Julia. Thank you so much for joining us. Brilliant. Okay, we have the last candidate of the evening, Evelyn. Welcome. You should be joining us in a second. Just a reminder that voting opens next week, and so very soon, and you can go onto the website to vote. The dates are sort of underneath me, under here. I can read it out for you if you like as well. Voting week takes place from next week, from 1st to the 4th of March, and voting is open 24 hours a day as it's online. You can find all the information you need about voting at uwsu.com/elections. You can also find all the information about all of the candidates and all their manifestos there. As a reminder, all candidates for this role were invited to take part tonight, but unfortunately they could not all make it. So to make sure to head to the website to see all of the candidates, and make sure you head to the website uwsu.com/elections to vote. We're just waiting for Evelyn to connect. I believe she was here. In the meantime, do submit any questions that you have for our final candidate, and feel free to also both on YouTube and Facebook to share your thoughts and comments about this evening and the candidates. And so I think she is ready. Hello.
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 Good evening. Hello, how are you?
Good evening. How are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm not sure. My internet might be coming on and off. I'm not sure why it went off.
Okay, hopefully it stays on for the next 10-15 minutes. And so you get your opportunity to speak to Westminster students. So do you want to start quickly by introducing yourself and telling everyone what your #1 priorities for the year would be?
My name is Evelyn Namtebi. I'm doing business management finance in my final year. And I've been working with students for the past 3 years as a course rep, a student rep. And for this year, I wanted to go further to progress because I've built my career throughout the university, my time at the university. So when this opportunity came up, I said, I'll give it a go. Yeah. And my focus for the students is to make sure that they have the best experience while at the university. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, as I said, structural inequality is an issue at Westminster. It's an issue at many, or nearly all universities in the UK and globally. What do you plan to tackle the attainment gap? I think Evelyn has dropped off again. I hope she will come back. I hope I'm not forced to answer the questions. So we're going to give it a couple of seconds. Hopefully, I think maybe the internet connection is a bit weak, and so hopefully we can get her back. So if anyone wants to share any comments and thoughts, if they're polite enough, I might read them out. But otherwise, just a reminder again, as I said, make sure you do vote. Some commentary from me. There are this year, I think students have had a very tough time, and it's fair to say that. And students' unions across the country have played an important part in raising student views to the institution and nationally as well. And the officers that get elected as part of sort of the next cohort of officers are going to be both a difficult and a fortunate position to really push forward in terms of the priorities for next year. And so it's really important every single student takes part in these elections. It's really important that you're here and you're asking these questions, which is brilliant, but also to make sure that you vote, which is going to be really important. I think we're still trying to get Evelyn. I think she is back.
I'm so sorry, my internet, I don't know why it's been working so well, but I don't know why it's just on and off.
No problem. It's okay. So just to repeat the question, structural inequality is an issue. What do you plan to do to tackle the attainment gap?
Just to basically to give all students the opportunity to speak so that their voices are heard, because everyone is equal. We are the university for the same purpose. It don't matter where you come from or whatever your disability or what you can do. Everybody's voice is equally important. So I'll try to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, no matter what, where or color or what. So I'll make sure everybody is inclusive, is included in all the decisions. Yeah.
What do you believe are the issues facing students in terms of feedback and communications with their course leaders?
The first issue is that maybe some course leaders, they don't respond to students' queries quickly. And another one is maybe the students might not know where to find the proper person to talk to. So I would work as the person that to direct them where to find the proper information and who to contact at the right time. In case they don't get any information feedback from the module leaders, they can contact their course reps, their school reps up to the heads of school so that their voices are heard. And they can also...
Oh no. Okay. I think Evelyn's dropped off again. Really sorry about that. It is modern internet connections. It is what it is. So, I mean, well, reminder, this isn't our last question time. It is for tonight, but it isn't for this week. And so there's a question time tomorrow, which will be for your student union president. And so make sure you submit your questions for that online, and make sure you tune in. Presidential question time is always quite fun. And so I think that'll be really good. I hope Evelyn's going to come back. We're going to try one more time. And we may ask her to switch off her video if she's experiencing difficulty. Evelyn, if you think your video is making it difficult, you can just switch off and we can just have a conversation.
Okay, where can I switch it off from, please?
Sorry, say that again.
No, let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, let's try this.
Okay.
Okay, let's try one more time. Brilliant. Okay, do you want to just carry on with what you were saying?
Yeah, basically, I was just saying that, just elaborating that to make sure that the students get the proper feedback at the right time, because some students, we do our assignment and it takes so long to get feedback from the lecturers. So I'll make sure that they go through, in case that feedback is late, they go through their course reps, and so that maybe even go onto digital rep and make like a query why, so that it's not just one person. So if it's a collection of students, then everybody, the feedback will be given to students on time, but through going through the correct processes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel students are getting value for money in terms of their academic needs currently?
To be honest with you, it's COVID time, and for this this year and last semester, students feel like our value for money is not really good because of COVID, because we are studying from home. But when you look at the university as well, they're investing so much into the module so that they can provide the proper services to us while we are studying at home. But it's like it's a balance between students and the university, because the students feel like they're paying so much money and they're studying at home.
Oh no. Okay. I think, unfortunately, we're just going to have to wrap it up there. So I think Evelyn will sort of get probably an opportunity, maybe through video or some sort of communication, to sort of share her views. But so the connection is an issue, and so. Look, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for their comments and their questions. I hope you found this helpful in deciding who you're going to vote for and who you're going to support. But most importantly, to cast your vote, you should be to head to uwsu.com/elections. And you can also read everyone's manifestos. Tomorrow, as I said earlier, will be the final question time of the 2021 UWSU elections, which will be the question time for the presidential candidates. I hope you've had a good evening. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.